This is Karen with NewClevelandRadio.net, and it is time for Avoid the Maze. And today, my guest is Jeff Brisbin. And in the past, I've interviewed Jeff solely about his music. But today, I'm going to go a little bit deeper because I'm realizing that we all are missing someone, something in our life. And some of us just like brush it off and say, well, I don't have it anymore. I just have to move on. And there are others of us who hold on very deeply. And I learned this from a friend of mine whose young daughter, at the age of, I think she was 3 or 4, passed away from childhood cancer. And yet, when she talks about her family, she still says she has 2 children because her daughter will always be her child. And I think we're living in a different world today, Jeff, than maybe 30, 40, or 50 years ago, because parents who lost a child, lost a sibling, usually you would hear them say, that their sibling passed, their child passed. But then when somebody would ask how many brothers or sisters do you have, you didn't count the one that passed away. When somebody asked how many children you have, you didn't count the one that passed away. And yet, they're still part of us.
Absolutely. And like I just said to you, I said I had 6 children, and Josh has been gone 11 years. He was 18 when he committed suicide. But he's still, I posted a thing on Facebook, I think it was last week. I saw a car with a Christmas tree go by me on the road. And it brought me right back. The last 2 years he was with us, when the kids were younger, I would take them to the farm, the Christmas tree farm.
Right.
We'd down the wagon, go up to the top of the hill, cut the tree down, bring it down. But the last couple of years, my 2 younger kids were with me for Christmas the whole time. We went to Lowe's, and I got the last 2 years. We got the last Christmas tree they had, live tree, and it was down to $15, and they were both Charlie Brown trees. And I remember he and I were laughing as we were going up to pay for the tree because it was bad. It was a bad looking tree, but we didn't care. And we laughed all the way home. So yeah, I mean, it's people are missing. I've lost a brother. A lot of us have lost brothers or sisters. My brother's been gone 25 years. He was my hero.
Wow.
Growing up, he was 12 years older than I was, so he was always an older authority figure in some ways, but he was just an amazing guy. And yeah, we do. We all miss, and you can't. I don't think. I mean, we still talk. All my kids and I, when we're together, we talk about Josh. In when I'm Christmas shopping, like I'm going to go do some Christmas shopping when I'm done with this. I'll go buy something. And I'll say, "Oh, Josh would love that," and then I have to stop myself, But and then there's anniversaries, like the anniversary of his death or his birthday, and so they all trigger different things. Everything we all get triggers from different things.
Absolutely. My oldest brother had a child, and Lori only lived for about 3 months. But I was an aunt, and I was ecstatic, and I babysat her. And most of the time when I babysat her, they didn't go very far. They always wanted to be right there with her. And one evening they were at a friend's house, and they put her down in the middle of their king-size bed to sleep. And they were in the living room with a number of people, and everybody was having a good time. And my sister-in-law decided that she was going to go check on the baby because it was really time for a feeding. And baby hadn't been in that room maybe an hour and a half, typical sleep time. And she realized that her baby wasn't breathing and she was already turning blue. And, none of us could understand that. Sudden infant death is something that even to today, people like, wait a second, she was just laughing, took a bottle, laid down, like, and now, and that was my first real connection with death. I had lost two grandparents prior to that, but I knew they were older. I knew that
Yeah,
they had health issues. And yes, did I miss them? Yes, but
it's
it
expected.
didn't. Yep.
Yeah, didn't surprise you.
Absolutely. And even when it's not a surprise, when it's somebody who is that close to us, um, I love the feeling of being able to talk about them today. And I still talk about Lori as if, she were an infant, or what would she be like today in her 50s?
Yeah.
Just to imagine that. And so, like you said, when you're shopping and you see something and you say, oh, Josh would like that, that's probably a good memory. Yeah, maybe you're not going to buy it, but it's a good memory. That's what you'd buy him today.
Absolutely. I mean, I think he was here, and if you don't talk about him, it's like he wasn't here. And
Exactly.
he was here. I mean, Christmas time, I first probably 7 or 8 years, I used to light a candle when the kids would come over for Christmas. And I have a daughter in Chicago and a son outside of Boston. I'm going to go see him Sunday because he's not coming. He came 22 years every Christmas. And
Wow.
a couple of years ago, the year before COVID, I said, Jeff, I said, I think you deserve to wake up in your own house on Christmas.
How nice.
And so the last 3 years he stayed home. So I go out like a week ahead of time and I spend the day and maybe the night, depending on what my schedule is. I'm
Sure.
busy. And so I have Christmas then with them. So I'll do that Sunday. But yeah, you got to keep them present. My ex texted me last night. Her brother's daughter was found in a car last night,
Oh, oh no.
Long Island, 20 years old. I don't know any of the details yet, but she was driving down. But life is very hard and very challenging for so many of us, and it's very fragile. It really, truly is.
And what some of us really don't understand is that um, we're all going through something. Okay. My pain isn't any worse than yours or somebody else's, but we have to understand that what you're seeing on the outside is not completely who that person is. And sometimes people don't let us in. I don't know about your son, Josh, but the fact that he took his life, he probably was holding a lot in that you
Yeah.
didn't know about. And yet you felt during those 18 years that you were talking, there was a connection. But
Oh, absolutely.
sometimes it's too hard to even talk about.
Yeah. I was sitting in our favorite coffee shop yesterday with one of my cohorts, and we were just saying how, when I'm there by myself, I like to listen to people. I get fragments for songs, lyric ideas, like
Sure.
somebody said yesterday, the squeeze isn't worth the. Oh, it's on my phone. I can't look. The squeeze wasn't worth the. I'll send it to you because it's a
Okay.
great quote. But I get little ideas like that, and I said to him, especially when you can sit outside and you're seeing hundreds of people go by. Everybody has their life experiences in their little cranium as they walk by. And you're right. I mean, we all kind of put not really a mask, but maybe we put a coat on every day of who the world perceives us as and who we want I guess more importantly, who we want
Right.
the world to perceive us as. And everybody is carrying something around with them. You don't know, it could be a divorce, it could be a death, it could be, stress from a job, it could be, whatever. And we all carry it with us. And the other thing that I said to him, which was kind of remarkable, is that like, and when we go, it's all gone.
Yes, it
And
is.
because nobody knows what everybody's thinking, and everybody's caring. And it's just, I find it fascinating. And I
Well,
do try out my song.
well, and I have to, remind people that one of the reasons I use your song enough, and I play it all the time. I play it for
Thank you.
myself. I share it with anybody who's going through something that is so intimate to themselves. And I told you the first day I was listening to it as I was driving to work, I pictured my mother, who I spent the last 2.5 months of her life with. She had no idea she was sick or dying, knew nothing. She thought that I'm not even sure what she thought because she had conversations with us, which were very coherent. But I pictured her saying to me, I wish you enough. And enough
Wow.
could be just, to be able to get up in the morning and
Yeah.
appreciate the day. It wasn't about any riches that we sort of think about, that we hold on to. It's more about the thoughts. And every time I hear the song, I can picture my mother in her hospital bed with a smile on her face. And yet, you told me it really wasn't, when you wrote it, it wasn't about the loss of a parent like that. It was more the loss of love.
Well, yeah, it's the original germ of the idea was that somebody posted somewhere. It was a woman, but I've also read the exact same story with a man. But this mother was saying goodbye to her daughter at an airport, and she's hugging her daughter and saying that she loved her, and she says, "I wish you enough." And the daughter kind of pulls her back, says, "Mom, what do you mean? I got enough. I got you. I got my life." She goes, "No, I wish you, when times are tough, you figure out a way to get through it, and that there's a lot of love around you and things like that." And then the daughter gets on the plane, and the mother's standing there crying. And it was apparently a very busy airport in the story. And there's a man sitting like right there, right behind this woman who's crying, looking at the windows. The plane's getting ready to go. And he goes, "I'm sorry, man, but I couldn't help it over here. Are you okay? Can I do anything for you? What did you mean?" She says, "Well, it's the last time I'm going to see my daughter. The next time she's going to come back for my funeral. I have cancer."
Oh, wow.
And so you'll see this story posted. You can probably Google it; it'll come up. And there's probably 10 people who've written songs about it, and they're all totally different. It's kind of cool. But that was the germ of the idea, and then of course you apply it to your own life and people and it's a wonderful thing to say to somebody. I wish you enough.
Well,
Uh,
it's become my byline thanks to you. And a lot of people will look at me like, can you explain it? And it's like, if I have to explain it, you're not going to appreciate it. Um,
yeah, yeah,
and that was one of the things I said to Alex when he was moving to Dallas. I looked at him and I said, I wish you enough. He said, yeah, Mom, I appreciate it. And he knows exactly where it's coming from. So let's talk about that. Something intrigued you with that story. You wrote the song.
yeah,
And a lot of your songs are based on something you've experienced or
yeah.
somebody else has experienced. And it seems like when you get an idea, you just don't wait to put it together. You just like jump in full force.
Well,
Uh,
Joel and Charlie. So my best friend since fifth grade, Rocky, he passed away. It'll be 3 years in February, and we would see each other once or twice a week, especially the last 30 years. And we would be at Uncommon Grounds, and I would see your brother Joel and his buddy Charlie. They would come in for years. I mean,
yep.
probably 10, 15 even really before I really knew Joel like I know him now, you know. And once in a while we would sit together, we would talk music and stuff, you know. And I saw Charlie going downhill, and you know, health wise, I mean, you could just see it. You know, he's started to get
Right.
hunched, and he's and just that what happens, you know, and it wound up happening with my friend and Rocky, and a couple years later, and I said, Joel posted a beautiful tribute to Charlie the day after he passed away, and the last line was two kind men of sound minds. He was describing him and Charlie, he and Charlie, and I read that, and I read that on my phone, you know, that Mangra thing that
Yep.
Joel writes.
Yep.
And so I said, oh my God, two kind men of sound minds. And that reverberated with me. I got in my car immediately. I drove home. I get my guitar. Two kind men of sound minds. How can you put that into a song? It's not the most lyrically beautiful phrase, right? But it just haunted me. And I swear to God, 10, 15 minutes, you know, sometimes these songs, it's like someone whispers it to you. It's the strangest thing. It's kind of magical, really, sometimes, you know. I'm not one of those guys that can craft something out usually. You know, I did do a song for Cafe Lena recently. It was called True Songs. And I had to listen to someone tell me a story, then write a song about their story. In like, I had like 2.5 weeks, 3 weeks to do this. And then we go to Cafe Lena. My storyteller, Lawrence, who's wonderful, he told his story about helping people. And then I did my song that I wrote about his story. So I can do that, I guess, a little bit, but it's harder. I like the ones that was pure inspiration, you know. And so I put all musical terminology in that song, you know,
Right.
um, because they were both musical people, you know, Adagio and Allegro. I don't know from anything. I went and I know really nothing about music. I don't even know the names to some of the chords. I can't read or write notes. I just do what I feel. Whatever is natural in me, you know, everybody has some gift from God.
Right.
And the Bible says you're supposed to share that gift with the world. So I have tried, you know, and I'm going to get ready to work on another project. And actually, Joel is going to help me on a couple songs, I think. So we've
I
talked
love
about.
that. And you know what the interesting part is that you've worked with my son Alex, and Alex is very much like you. Now he doesn't play an instrument, but he hears the chords in his head. He
Yeah,
knows
yeah,
where he wants things to go. And he's also willing for somebody to tell him, that's not quite what you want. Um,
yeah.
but
We
I
kind of,
find, yep,
you know,
yeah, you do. And I think it's because you both sort of think alike when it comes to music. Um, you take that gut feeling and you put it out there. He shared a song with us about a week before he went up to we came up to Saratoga. He was talking to me and he said, I'll be back in like 15, 20 minutes. He comes in, he said, let me read this to you. And I mean, I just was like, wow, like, how long have you been working on this? He said, it was something you said, Mom, that triggered me. I went and I wrote it. And it's the same way that he put together the song Into the Light, that his first one that he did with Joel. Uh, we had had an argument in the car, and he was just yelling at us. We don't understand him, and he's a young adult. And it was like, where's all this anger coming from? And we got home. He just stormed in the house, went into his room. He loves slamming doors, slammed the door. And then about a half hour later, he came out and he was a totally different person. And he read us the lyrics to Into the Light. And he said, this is what it's like for me being on the spectrum and being judged. And I thought, wow, you know, uh,
yeah,
we learn about each other through those epiphanies that they go through.
sure.
So let's go back to that song that you wrote. You had a gentleman that you didn't know, you were assigned to him. He
Yeah.
told you his life story or whatever, and now you have 2 weeks to write a song.
Yeah. It was, it's kind of funny. So I my office is on common grounds, as you know, and so
Right.
I go there at least 4 days a week, sometimes five. And so we had our initial meeting, like an hour long, at Uncommon Grounds, and he also had a story coach, who's this wonderful woman, Margaret French, who was an English professor at Union College here in the area, and so she was like his coach and helped him shape it and focus on the message.
Okay.
You know, go off on a tangent. You know, she kind of drew him in a little bit, and what he did was he worked at the Saratoga Senior Center. Um, Lawrence is a server in restaurants, in high end restaurants. He does very well. He's got a wonderful personality. He's a wonderful man. He really is. He's probably early 60s. And so he is successful. He wanted to get back to the community. So how can I do that? Saratoga's been so good to me. How can I get back to Saratoga? Somebody said, go to the senior center. They can always use help. So he goes there, and the first he actually ran into somebody who was working there that led what they call it, the reminiscing group every week. So he would go in once a week, and it would be, everybody was telling stories about their lives. And the big thing I learned from him when I talked to him was, he said, they just want to be heard, the seniors. And so my song is called Every Word. um I'll pull some lyrics, but he was telling a story of, like, he says 1,500 seniors have his phone number. So he wound up being on the help desk after he did the reminiscing thing. So, like, one day this woman calls him and says, Lawrence, I don't know, but I think they've shut my power off. It was 4 o'clock in the morning.
Oh,
And,
wow.
and he goes, Mary, why do you think that? She goes, well, Lawrence, it's dark. He said, well, did you pay your bill? He says, of course, Lawrence, I always pay my bill. He said, okay, why do you think they've shut your power off? She says, well, it's dark. He says, Mary, it's 4 o'clock in the morning. So,
I love it.
right. Another woman, another woman calls him. We got a 3-foot snowstorm a year and a half ago. 3 foot at one day,
Wow.
overnight. Yeah, it's crazy, right? So she calls up, says, Lawrence, she lived slightly out of Saratoga. She says, my husband needs to get to dialysis, but we got 3 feet of snow. I can't get out. He's got to get there. So Lawrence calls the public works department at Greenfield Center and says, hey, this woman's husband's got to get to dialysis. They go over, plow him out, and they took him to dialysis. So
Wow.
that's what we were able to do. So I'll read you some of the lyrics if you want.
Okay.
So
Sure.
if I can get it to come up. Here it is. So I said, I just listened to him, and this is in Lawrence's voice, basically. I remember when I got here, remember my first day, I didn't know what to do, expect, or say. But then I saw their faces and how that could help them smile. I'd cover all their bases and go the extra mile. I see a bit of them in me. It's like looking in a mirror. In some ways, I was lost, then found. It made my purpose clearer. I get so much more than I could ever give. My heart is so full, loving this life I live. The stories they tell me just want to be heard. So I listen, I listen, I listen to every word. I look in their eyes and I can feel their hearts. We're all part of each other, just sharing different parts. Wanting to give back to those who really need it. Learning every day, giving my time would feed it. And it's changed me in ways I could never guess. I couldn't stop once I started, feeling so blessed. And some of those are quotes, really. He said, once I started, I couldn't stop. I just love, and he'll go to like the market, like doing grocery shopping, and he'll get accosted by 30 people. They just gather around him. So last week we recreated the Cafe Lena show um, at the senior center,
Oh, how
and
wonderful.
by people, there was 150 people, and so that we showed him giving his talk, and he was absolutely hilarious. Lawrence Barisa is his name, and he could have taken it on the road. I mean, he was like a stand-up comic. And then I did the song live for the people, and I had 30 people come up to me afterwards. They were just they. It was very heartwarming, and so I was a little daunted by the task. But again, it's just humanity. And I had known Lawrence because I had played in places where he had worked for years. I still play in one place where he works now. And so we always say, hey, how you doing? So I've known him 10, 12 years. So that made it a little easier maybe, but the words came very easily. And I was sitting out in front on Common, and he walked by like a week after we had first met. And he just came, hey, Jeff, how you doing? So I'm working on your song right now. He says, really? I said, yeah. He said, okay, I won't disturb you. He went on his way. And I changed the chorus of the song just by that interaction. The stories they'll tell me just want to be heard. So I'd listen to every word. And that was the essence of his story, really, And so I was very glad and blessed that I could convey that in the song.
Well, and you're touching on a subject that we discuss here at New Cleveland Radio a lot, and it's about humanity and aging. We
Yeah.
we talk to people, we talk to each other probably between the ages of 25 and maybe 45. Okay. We share all the things, that we're good at work, our hobbies, places we go, our children. And then we get to a certain age and people don't want to hear, they don't want to listen anymore, because they have this image that, well, we're getting a little old, a little senile. They don't realize that how we get to that stage is when we're ignored. We need to communicate from birth all the way through. And
Yeah, we're so
it sounds like that's what he was doing and still does. And it hurts sometimes when I see, and especially on the weekend when I'm at a Best Buy training, and I will see adults my age or a little older who won't come up to me and talk to me because they think, well, she's older. I better go to that young kid over there. And then they go to the young kid, and the young kid doesn't understand what they're talking about because they have a lot of anxiety over electronics. And then when I step in and start talking to them, I let them tell me about how their grandkid did something. The young kids don't. And then it's finally, oh, I'm so glad I talked to you.
yeah.
So it's opening up our ears and listening, and also knowing that at some point in our life, that's going to be us too.
Oh yeah. Well, I think in that particular case, the perception with people my age is, well, these young whippersnappers, man, they know everything about
Right.
IT, computers and tablets and getting the internet and all that, So, but really, some of us are pretty sharp.
Yep. Well, and absolutely. I mean, look how many nights a week you are out performing. I mean,
Yeah, I am a blessed and grateful human being. I tell you, this is my most successful year ever. Now, for me to have 23 gigs in December is
wow.
significant. Yeah, I'll do 269 this year. And it's become, I make more money now than I when I was working. I had a pretty successful job. It's crazy, really. It's. I mean, I saved and bought a house, and I've been able to put it because it needed it. I bought a little fixer upper, And you'll have when next time you come, you'll have to come over. Alex was here, and he was here like 2 weeks after I moved in, and then he was here 2 weeks ago.
Right.
And, Thanksgiving time, and he was here for a couple of hours. We worked on stuff, so he couldn't believe the difference. It's like night and day. But yeah, music is. I'm just amazed by it, and so grateful that I do get in. But it's my social time when I'm out. I had a great crowd last night. You know, um, I do some Christmas music this time of year, and I love doing some of those old songs and some of the newer Christmas songs, and
Right.
I need that social activity, that give and take, and I love when I can engage with an audience. It's really important to me. I try every night.
Well, and that's, the difference when you're doing something because you love it.
Mm,
Um, it does become part of your social existence. Um,
yeah.
I had we had a podcast last night, and I was before we started, I was so exhausted. In the back of my head, what can I do to cancel this tonight? Um, but
Yeah.
I knew I wasn't going to. I knew I was going to find some way to get through the podcast. And the host of it brought on an excellent guest who made me start thinking. I forgot I was tired. As I'm listening to him, it's like, I have a question. And I had all these questions, but I was writing them down because if he answered them, I didn't want to be asking again.
Right.
Um, but my husband sometimes will say to me, "How did you get through it?" And it's like, because I love what I do.
Yeah.
Okay. And yes, there are going to be some days that, yes, I'm going to have to cancel a show for whatever reason. You and I have been through this over the last couple of weeks.
I over
Um,
last week was like, whoa,
yeah.
sorry.
But I always find that space to bring it back because um, when you do something you love, at the end of the day, you feel, hey, I've accomplished something.
Yeah.
And I love sharing your music. Um,
Thank you.
some,
I love you.
somebody, yeah, somebody said to me, you know, who's your favorite performer? And I said, well, that's really hard to say because I meet so many wonderful people.
Yeah.
I said, but when you meet somebody and you get to actually know them, that's when that's my favorite performer because you make a connection. And we can't all do that. But I'm going to tell our listeners if you're around Saratoga Springs, New York, and you have an interest for live music, you got to go hear Jeff. And as Jeff has shared with me, he really doesn't know how to play the guitar, but you play
I
it.
I got gorilla pause. I say that all the time to people. I get it done. I mean, I'll say that to people that go, stop. I go, but I really, I taught myself. I got a chord book, and I know some of the chords, but I'm very rudimentary. But I get it done because I love it. I just have a passion for all kinds of music, and that song, "I Wish You Enough." The piano is played by Chuck Lamb, who's
Oh, my favorite. Oh,
who's a member of the Brubeck Brothers Quartet.
right.
Dave Brubeck himself picked Chuck to basically take his place in his band, and he has said of Chuck that he's the finest improvisational piano player I've ever heard. That's who Chuck Lamb is. He is. When we recorded that song, Dave Maswick, who is
Yep.
sitting over to the left at the computer, and Chuck has got his back to me at the piano. I got the headphones on. I'm hearing my feeble vocals, and this man is and he made 4 passes at the song. I'm sitting there crying like a little schoolgirl. The beauty that this man created in that song. If you listen to it, next time you listen to it, it's almost like a southern style is in there. There's little nuances he puts in there. It's kind of like I'm in Savannah, and it's just I picked him up that day and dropped him off, and we just had so much fun, and he's incredible. That's all I can say. He is incredible. Go see the Brubeck Brothers Quartet if you can. Chuck Lamb is the pianist, and he is. There's nobody better.
And they,
For him
yep.
to be on my record, are you kidding me? I mean, really, truly, he is. He's as good as you get.
Well, in addition to him being a phenomenal artist, okay, he's just a phenomenal person.
Oh, he
Okay.
is. He's
And
adorable.
his wife is even
Maria, yeah, yeah, yeah.
they match. They are both
Oh,
wonderful
yep,
people. Um
yep.
and Saratoga Springs has a large group of, I've never seen a city where there are so many good people. Um
Yeah,
and
it's deep.
yeah, when we saw you in Uncommon Grounds the first day, um, one of your friends had stopped by our table and talked, and he didn't remember if he had met me before or not. But the next day we were in there, and he came up to me and he said, "Oh, you're still here." And I said, "Yes, we are." And sat with us for a couple of minutes. And it was like,
Nice.
wow. I mean, that's humanity at its best.
Yeah,
Nobody is asking for anything in return. It's
yeah.
just to be there and be nice with each other.
It's community. Saratoga has always been like, if somebody needs something, what a giving community it is. If you go on my page today, it was 9 years ago today that this woman, Nancy Pitts, a homeless woman, was found at the Saratoga Senior Center we were just talking about. She froze to death.
Oh,
She fell asleep on the porch and passed away. And this was a woman who had a family at one point, children, husband, and this I wrote a song about. It's just I don't know. Sometimes I have to. I read about it in the paper that next morning, and so I had to go to CVS and get a prescription, which is right next door to it. Right behind is the senior center. So I drove by the senior center, and it's the weirdest thing. I got this feeling. She laid on the porch. She closes her eyes. Well, that's what happened. So immediately I got to get home. I got to get my guitar. Another 10-minute song. My best songs are 10, 15 minutes. And it's called Homeless Heart. So if you go on my Facebook page today, I just posted it. And about, I think it's a little over 2 minutes in, you see the TV news broadcast about her death when they
wow.
found her. And we didn't have a code blue here in Saratoga, which is a place for homeless people to go when the temperature gets to be a certain, like 32
Sure.
degrees or less. It's a safe place. And most shelters, you can't be on drugs, you can't be drunk. They won't let you come in. The code blue, anybody can come in. There's no restrictions because you're going to die if you stay out there because of what happened to her. So if anything good could come from her death, that was it. And so I started off the song. She laid on the porch. She closes her eyes. And that would be one verse song. So I had to make her 6 years old.
I get
So I
it.
brought her 6 years old laying on the porch waiting for dad to get home. So I posted the lyrics for it too. So if you go on there when we're done, you'll see
Absolutely. And we'll
it's a
connect to that.
recording.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and so the homeless shelter in Saratoga kind of, and Code Blue adopted it as their song for many years. I would go play it at different uh, events for them, and the recording of it is not a great recording. It's a live recording in a room for the one of the events I did for them about Code Blue, and we had our mayor elect. She wasn't even the mayor yet. She was elected in November, and she wasn't going to take office till January. She went around and got the community involved. Again, the community. We needed money to fund it. Don't worry about it. We'll get you the money. Not a problem. And so she didn't have to fight anybody for that. Fight City Hall,
Right.
and she put it all together in like 4 hours. It was
How
done.
terrific.
And so where the senior center is now, they're moving that to the YMCA. We have a big, huge YMCA. they're building. It's almost done. They're building a whole new senior center there, and where the senior center is now is going to become the new Code Blue headquarters.
How
So
wonderful.
yeah, yeah, it's fantastic. And someone from town is going to pay for the renovations to bring it up to code. I mean, it again, community, like you were saying. Saratoga is amazing.
Well, it surely is. It's beautiful. It's amazing. I have um, extended family up there that includes Mr. Jeff Brisbin himself.
Absolutely.
Sadly, we only get up there like once a year for a couple of days.
We got to
Um,
move here.
well, the funny thing is, Alex keeps saying to us, you know, if I'm not going to be living in Cleveland, he said, when you and dad aren't working anymore, you got to pack your bags and move to Saratoga. And so the funny part was on our way out of Saratoga a couple weeks ago, um, my husband was looking, I don't know what he was looking for. He was looking for something at a gas station. And so we didn't go directly to the freeway. And we were driving around the outskirts of Saratoga.
Yeah.
And he said, oh, we could live here. Well, and this is the first time my husband has ever said that he might leave Cleveland, Ohio. And it was like, okay, I'm going to keep that in the back of my mind. So,
Well, I live in Boston Spa. I am 6.5 miles from Uncommon Grounds. I'm there in 10, 11 minutes. And it's very affordable here.
well, we're going to give Alex a little time to get himself settled in Texas. And
Sure.
who knows? Although I look around, my husband's a pack rat. I don't know what it would take to move us out of here. So we'll just have to wait and see. But in the meantime, I want to thank you for sharing so much the part of your life. When you post about Josh, I feel as if I knew him.
He was here. And I want people to know he was here. I'm not looking for sympathy or anything like that. I'm looking to say, you know what? This boy was here. And if I don't say anything, nobody's going to know.
Exactly.
His,
Exactly.
his college roommate, he finished 1 year of college. He came to see me 2 weeks ago at one of my gigs. He comes up to me and gives me a big hug and a kiss. And it just melted my heart. Where Josh is buried, he got down on his knee and asked his girl to be his wife, right by, because he loved Josh, you know. And so, yeah, there's all those crazy, significant things that make a life. And I'm proud of Josh. I'm proud I was his dad. He was a fantastic human being, and I miss him every day I talk to him. And I hope he can hear me. I think he does. I want to believe he does. And he knows how much he's missed. And all his brothers and sisters, we just adored him.
Well, our special people leave a part of themselves inside of us. I
Yep.
truly believe that. Um, you know, I had 2 miscarriages and I still feel a connection. I don't
Sure.
know if they were going to be sons or daughters, but I carried them just for enough time that they're still part of me. And so there are times, I'll just look out into the air and just feel and just say, you know what? It happened. There was a reason.
Yeah.
And all I want to do is just know that, it was real rather than thinking, oh, well, that happened. Forget it. We don't want to forget. We need to remember.
You got to remember E. Cummings' poem, I carry your heart in my heart. And you got to read that poem. It's beautiful.
I'm going to do that today. Thank you so much, Jeff. Enjoy your trip to Massachusetts. Hopefully, hopefully the snow won't be too deep to get there.
You know, they're saying we could have a foot this weekend. We'll see. Or it could be, depends, it's a coastal, I don't know, whatever. It's winter. I love
winter. and people want to go skiing, so we need the snow.
Right. That's right.
Have a great day, and you take care.
Well, I love you. You take care. Say hi to Rich.
I will. Bye-bye now.